So just a moment of my background, which is that I started life as a lawyer, and I was a partner in a law firm at Minter Ellison until about the year 2000. Then I was an investment banker for 10 years until 2010. And during that time, for 10 years or so, I was chair of Belvoir Street Theatre. And I then thought, there comes a time in your life when you actually want to do things that you really care about. And I love doing transactions and I love getting things done, but I'd never really loved the subject matter, whereas being at Belvoir, I absolutely loved the subject matter. And I got really sick. I got septicemia and I was 4 hours away from dead. And the doctor said to me, I'm not sure if you're going to make it. And I thought, well, if I do make it, I'm going to do something I care about. So I came out of it and I was fine. It took about 3 months to get better, but that was no problem at all. And then my husband and I went on holidays with our grown-up children to Berlin, and we spent lots of time going around to art galleries and museums and late night clubs and things as you do in Berlin. And I just remember the moment where I said, I just want to work in the arts. And my husband said to me, okay, well, I'll give you a year to find a job. And I thought, well, that's pretty generous. Thanks for that. And that was in the December, and by the middle of June, I had this job. So it was incredibly fortuitous that this job came up and that I happened to be able to do it. And in the intervening period, I'd chaired the Major Performing Arts Board of the Australia Council and been on the Australia Council and been on a number of boards, which I also didn't particularly like, because I found that every time I was on a board and starting to get involved in something and give an opinion, I thought, yeah, well, actually I really want to do it. I don't want to just give an opinion, I want to get in there and do it. So clearly I'm a terrible board director. So I'm much more of an executive than a director. So that's basically my story. And I have 2 grown-up children, one of whom is 2 sons, one of whom is a Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade graduate, and the other one of whom has just finished architecture and works for a Danish firm called Steensen Varming, and is going to become is going to do a Masters of Engineering. So that's my story. It's really appropriate that that it's here in this Danish, in the space that Søren started, and I said when I met him, oh, hello Søren, he said, what, you know how to say it? I said, all Danes are, the blokes are called Søren and the women are called Pernilla, and he said, that's my wife's name. Straight out of The Killing. So when I started this job exactly 3 years ago, one of the very first things that happened was I got an opportunity to go to Denmark, because I felt like to do the job properly, what I needed to do was to understand the heritage of the building. And you know, people speak so much about the Utzons and so I thought, well, I need to meet the Fockers, I need to meet the Utzons. So I was invited to go over, and it was really fantastic actually meeting the Utzons and understanding the importance, I guess, of collaboration. That was the first thing that struck me about the Danes, was the way that Danes collaborate, and on it's gone, and the way that Danes go about doing things is actually quite incredible and quite revolutionary, and I feel as if I've learnt a lot from them. And they're incredibly democratic people, and I don't think there's any other nation on earth that is as easy for Australians to deal with as Denmark. I think it's easier dealing between Australia and Denmark than it is between Australia and the UK or the US or anywhere else. And there's only 5% where we're different, which is that I feel that in Denmark, when you come to a point to making a decision, it's so democratic that a decision doesn't get made, whereas here, someone will pull rank. And the Danes tend not to pull rank, so they're democratic and they fight to the end to get the result, whereas in our case, someone will pull rank at the end and we'll get a decision. The decision will often be the same, but the similarity is incredible. So I was in Aalborg, where the Utzon Centre is, and I was sitting next to this incredible guy called Kristen Obel, who is the head of the Obel Family Foundation, which made its money through tobacco, through selling tobacco and cigarette products from Denmark. And they'd made mountains of money and felt incredibly guilty about it, and so established a massive foundation. And that foundation invested very heavily in the Utzons and in the Utzon Centre. And I was sitting next to this guy and I thought, you are the most amazing guy. It's my first night ever in Denmark. I thought, you are the most amazing guy. And I started talking to him about why he cared about Utzon so much. And he said, well, you know, Utzon really embodies the Danish spirit. He's an incredible collaborator. And what if we did that? And so we had every year two architects, 2 designers and 1 engineer from Australia who go to Denmark, and they're in sort of at the end of their university, and they work on a project, and then you send 5 Danes to Australia and they work on a project here. And he said, yeah, that's a great idea. And I said, will you help me fund it? And he said, yep, I will. And so it was born, and that project has continued, and we're on to the 3rd set of Danes are here at the moment, and the 4th set of us, no, with the 2nd set of Danes are here at the moment, and the 3rd set of Australians will be announced on Friday. And the projects that they have worked on, the first set of Australians went and worked on sustainability for the Eurovision Song Contest site. And the Danes that are here at the moment are working on that area as you come into the Opera House, as you go up into the box office, ridiculously called the Vehicle Concourse. That should be a wonderful, open, pedestrianised space, which we now have funding for, and they are working on the project, and they will be presenting their design on Friday as to how they feel that the space should be used. So they consult all of the architects that have worked on the building, they consult the Utzon design principles, they look at the engineering aspects, they look at the design aspects, and they come up with a solution.
Who will they present that to, Louise?
They'll present it to, well, last time about 300 people turned up. Basically all of the architecture and engineering and design community turned up. So I don't know if you know the room at, there's a fantastic room at Hassel's, the architectural firm, over in Walsh Bay, and they've got a sort of a theaterette, and it was absolutely packed. And we have the Utzon room, and I think we have 250 acceptances for it. It is the most amazing project, fully funded for 10 years, and it took about half an hour to raise the money because everyone believes in collaboration.
What's the name of the program again?
It's called Made by the Opera House, which is Multidisciplinary Australian-Danish Exchange, or Multidisciplinary Architecture Design Engineering Exchange. It works both ways. It's multidisciplinary in itself. So I think that this idea of collaboration is something that gave birth to the Opera House, that is just so lived by Danes, as is obvious tonight, and that is something that we're so very keen to continue at the Opera House. So that's the first point that I wanted to make.